Hello, everyone. I'm Reggie Young. I'm here with JV Ortiz. JV, if you could take a quick second to explain a little bit about who you are and how you got started.
Hey guys, my name is JV. I am a online entrepreneur. I've run a blog in the past that I sold. I built it up while traveling the world for 4 years, and since selling it, I'm building a new business. And I got started just by a lot of curiosity, and I think the biggest seed that was planted through the many books I read and videos I watched about entrepreneurship was the concept of the 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And that really inspired me to create a digital products business sold on a niche website, which, yeah, I made it happen over the years. Started in late 2016, and here I am today, I guess, on the other side.
Awesome. Yeah. To be honest, the 4 hour work week was, I'm sure, like other entrepreneurs, especially around that time frame, was like the entrepreneurship Bible. It literally is the book that inspired me as well to quit my 9 to 5. Um, if you could, can you talk a little bit about the blog that you started and maybe the niche and like your whole journey with that?
Yeah, definitely. So when I first, so I didn't finish college actually. Like I didn't find myself able to fit myself into any sort of career or that path. Like I was very um, entrepreneurial, just trying different hustles and nothing really stuck. And I was selling many things on eBay. I was doing Amazon, but not like a brand. I was just doing some arbitrage, and I didn't kind of like lost some motivation with that. And I started to just do research on eBay for like what's the best product to sell. And I was filtering through the products, and I found a Nike shoe that was going for $800. And it looked like a normal shoe to me. And I was really surprised there were a lot of sales. And I noticed the profit margin on that was incredible. Like people were making a couple $100 per shoe. So I was like, I got to learn how to do this. I started reselling shoes, and I still had the 4 hour work week in mind. And I didn't like managing inventory or scaling that. And I wanted to make an educational resource for people who wanted to learn about the shoe game. So that's where I came up with my website and, yeah, wrote an ebook about shoe reselling and then a blog about that, and that's kinda how it started.
That's really cool. I remember when maybe like around 2015, 2016, a few of my friends were also trying to flip drops online. And I remember thinking to myself, man, I could probably give them good advice on how to do that. Even though I had no idea what I was doing, I just thought, hey, I just graduated from business school. I could probably give good principles for them to follow. But you're actually the first person I've met that made a legitimate resource, got it profitable, was able to travel the world because of that resource, and then sold it. And now you're kind of like doing different things. So that to me, that sounds really cool. If anyone's interested, where would they maybe take a look at resources to, start flipping sneakers or shoes online, or doing any of those kind of like early stage things that you had started doing?
Yeah, the incredible thing about the internet and how things are today with, people sharing their stories and how technology has progressed, like, there's so many YouTubers and so many TikTokers now that whatever you're drawn to and whatever you think you might be good at, so many people are giving advice, like people like yourself or people out there telling their stories. So I would just say be curious and um just start Googling. Like that's what I did whenever I first started. And when I built my website, like I made sure it was a really good resource. So whenever people were Googling like how do I resell shoes, it actually just started to rank in Google. And I believe like Google's intention and even like YouTube or TikTok is to push the best information on these topics. So whatever topic you're interested in, Google it, find the resource, and just continue to be curious. It might not be shoe reselling, it might be something totally different. So
Yeah, no, totally. I had one of my previous coworkers I used to work with, excuse me, just like a few years ago. They reach out to me every now and then, and they're always asking, "Hey, like, what do you recommend we do, like, to get started?" And I primarily teach private label, and e-commerce. Amazon FBA is my primary thing that I teach. But I don't want to just drive someone directly to Amazon FBA. And I gave them the same piece of advice that you're giving the audience right now, which is like, I really love that what you said is be curious, because when you're curious, you'll find a bunch of influencers out there, so much information out there now. I always say, like, just spend a few hours learning maybe the different types of business models, and you've had that experience as well, right? Like, sounds like you're doing eBay, and not, I meet very few people who did eBay back in the day. So in my opinion, that means that you've already kind of gone through like the crucible of like trying different business models, learning different aspects of each one, and then finding the one that really worked for you, doubling down on that, and then making that become the freedom that allows you to escape your 9 to 5.
Definitely, yeah.
Cool. So next thing I want to kind of talk about is, what kind of struggles did you run into while you were going through these different business models and eventually settling on blogging?
Yeah, so I would say that my yeah, I didn't find longevity in the first sort of hustle I had. Like, it wasn't really attached to a market or anything that was, like, had, yeah, like I said, longevity. I wanted to build more of like a machine that lasted. And that's when I came up with the idea of a blog because, if you build something up to a certain level, any sort of business, it'll sort of pay dividends. And yeah, the road to making a blog is really slow, and it was definitely tough in the beginning to manage, making money through side hustles, selling shoes, etc. While my blog was starting to slowly become profitable.
Mm. How long did it take for your blog from the time you like decide to buy the domain name, set up the website, probably publish your first article till the time that you were able to replace your income with it? How long did that take you?
Um, so in terms of like replacing the actual, I guess, livable first world sort of income, it took 2 years about. But
Mm.
what I did actually is, so I bought the domain in November 2016. I threw up a sales page and I had no idea what I was doing. I was just trying to like spam people to go to it. I was like going in YouTube comments or like forums or whatever, like,
Yeah.
hey, check this out.
Yeah.
Wasn't really working. And I actually decided to uh get my own press, like be my own press agent, like find people who are willing to I'm like, hey, I have this like I resell shoes, I have this resource, like could I talk about it on your blog? So a few months later, I was able to get in touch with a guy who ran a blog, and he had written an article about shoes, but he didn't really know um he didn't have a ton of knowledge on the topic, and I knew more about it. So I was like, "Hey, I can make your article better for your audience if you could just kind of, shout out my blog and maybe an affiliate thing or whatever." And once that happened, she actually gave me the tip of like creating more of a blog section. He was like, "You should really just focus on the blog to get organic traffic rather than just trying to like get people through whatever means possible to a sales page." And so about a year later, so a few months in, I got that little press pump and I started writing articles consistently. I started doing YouTube videos consistently, slowly growing. And after about a year and a half, I was making enough that I could travel in Southeast Asia. So that's something like I learned from Tim Ferriss for a work week. I wasn't making much. I was making like $1,000 a month. But it was like after that had happened, like 3, 4 months in a row, I was like, okay, I can make this jump and buy one way ticket to Thailand.
Oh, that's
And like
exciting.
I said, a year later, it scaled to like a much more livable income.
Oh, that's amazing. I think to myself, the average probably audience member who first listens to this thinks, oh, 2 years until you're making a livable income. I think most people who start online business don't really become profitable to at least in my opinion, at least a year. Like very few people are able to start a business, learn the business model, get it up and running and profitable, and quit their job, within a year. That usually ends up being, in my opinion, a very, very rare case. At least for my experience, when I first started e-commerce, it was 2015. I was selling iPhone 6 phone cases, and that process took me from the time I decided I wanted to do it, watching YouTube videos, trying to source from Alibaba, not having taken a course, and got all the inventory in, did everything, and I only had probably 3 sales. My mom, somebody in Turkey who charged me, who ended up doing a chargeback, and then one person in Canada was probably like my only real customer over the period of like 4 months after a few $1,000s in inventory and another $1,000 in ad spend. I had failed that, and then I had moved to drop shipping. Took me a few months to go through the course, get everything set up. Thankfully, had made a good amount of money within the first few months, but it wasn't enough to replace my income. That whole process probably took me close to a year. So I think if anyone's ever discouraged in starting an online business, you have to kind of see it as the long game. Like, how much do you really want that personal freedom? Whether that's the freedom to work on the things that you want to, or like help other people, or just quit your 9 to 5 and kind of travel Southeast Asia. At the end of the day, you can't escape hard work, and regardless of whatever business model you choose, you're going to have to work insanely hard, probably much harder than you think, in my opinion, to reach that level of financial freedom. And one thing I found very interesting is 2015, 2016 is when I also made the decision that I would be a like digital nomad, like make some money online. Read the 4 Hour Work Week when I was underground as a missilier, and was just inspired. But I was like, crap, it's too late. I literally just signed a 5 year contract with the military. Like, I can't do it. So I'm super envious and super excited to hear your story of like you started in 2015, 2016, did the grind, made the jump. I think very few people are, at least that I meet, they're really afraid to kind of like let go of it all. But you can always get a job. You can always lean back on your past experience. It, but the opportunity cost of not trying and opening up those other doors, I think, is very it's very exciting, and it should be something that I think hopefully that most entrepreneurs or people who want to make money online definitely try and reach for. If you could you talk a little bit about maybe some of the cool places you've been when you were traveling, some of the cool countries, maybe like some interesting experiences or things that you like the most or learn the most while traveling.
Yeah, so when I traveled, I really quickly, I don't know if it's just like an inherent characteristic I had, but like I really just wanted to feel like, immersed. Like I didn't do touristy stuff. I was like, I want to like live there and feel it. So whenever I posted up somewhere, I just kind of soaked in the culture and the surroundings. I grew up in the Midwest in Pennsylvania. It's a very boring culture. There's much going on there. So um whenever I went to Thailand, just being immersed in all these amazing cultures was and living it was amazing. It actually like fueled me to inspire, like, I gotta keep doing this. I gotta, keep putting work into my business so it can scale, so I can continue to do this. And about 6 months into my travels, I ended up in Bali, and I picked up surfing, which I would say like very much it changed my life. It brought me to Hawaii where, I think I know you're from there. So, I spent about 2 years there and, surfing and working on my business. And yeah, it's just incredible that I was able to create an income machine that allowed me to, hone my craft of surfing because I didn't grow up doing it. It's a very, um, it takes a lot of commitment. So I kind of, towards the end of my entrepreneurial journey with the website, I was just making surfing my full time income. I was like, wow, like this is amazing. And like when people would talk to me about business and everything, like, and they saw I was like just like surfing a lot or whatever. They're like, oh, how are you doing this? Yeah, I built this like website thing, whatever. Like, and yeah, so I think the most amazing thing that business allows is the ability to find your dream and live it. And for me, that ended up being surfing.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I'm sure anyone who hears that is also going to love that as well. What, at least for me, when I first started traveling, and before then, I was in North Dakota for 5 years, and I spent uh, probably a little bit less than half the month underground every single month for close to 5 years. And it was a small town of North Dakota. Uh, I wasn't able to take much vacation just because of the way things were set up. So when I started traveling, not only was it an amazing experience, but it was like even more of like this real hit in the face of like, wow, here's another culture. Here's another, not stuck underground. I'm not stuck in this small town. I'm not stuck in this state. I'm doing anything I want, and everything around me is getting me excited and inspired. And with that, like you said, it really doubles down on you finding what I'm calling is like, my own path or whatever, my purpose. And for you, it's like, finding your dream and living it. And I also really love that. The way you stated that is like, you give yourself the opportunity to be around other people and be around probably different. I'm sure when you're in Bali, you met a lot of other nomads or people making money online that you maybe were also able to mastermind or learn other things of which probably helped you with where you're at now.
Yeah, that's another thing I totally forgot, but it's much more important than me finding surfing. It was finding the people along the way that really um shared so much with me, and I learned so much from so many people around the world that were doing so many incredible things. Because I think when you make the jump and you're traveling and you do a digital nomad thing, unlike no matter where you're from, like people in wherever, like your hometown or whatever, are more of a similar set mindset, which is it's not necessarily bad. It's just it's different. And whenever you're out there, just out there, like whether it's Mexico City, Bali, um, Thailand, wherever, like third world, and like people are gathering, you meet people who just operate on a different level and they think a different way. And that's why I continued and still continue to just travel all the time. It's not even necessarily, like I said, for the tourist experience. It's more for like growing and learning with, yeah, the people, just finding really great people that are super helpful along the way.
Yeah, totally. That again, that makes me also think of another person who reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, I really want to learn what you're doing, but I can't find or I'm stuck around people who are of a different mindset. They're more kind of locked into their way of life right now, and it doesn't align with what they want to do. And they ask, what conferences do I recommend? Who do I recommend following? I really just doubled right back down to like like you said, get curious, Google stuff, spend a good amount of time researching the different things. But when you're trying to find this community, don't feel like you have to immediately go fly to Bali, pay for the most sickest like co-working space, go to like the coolest meetups, and then you're gonna find that one person and that one tip and that one business model that's gonna make it all work. I think step one would be like you said, which I love that, get curious. But there's so many free like Facebook groups and online communities, discords that you can join right now for free. But once you do that top level research and you niche down to whatever that community is, you can immediately join an online community and then DM people, ask them, if you see someone post about their success or their struggles, like literally DM them and ask them like, hey, like congratulations, or do you have any advice for me? Or, I'm stuck with this. Could you help me? Or offer that help back. And you really can start building community. And I also did the same thing for myself. When I was stuck in North Dakota, I couldn't find that community anywhere, like anywhere. Like most people who, especially in 2015, 2016, trying to build an online business back then it wasn't seen as lucrative as it is now. So it was really hard to find a community, and I found that community through Facebook groups, through paid masterminds, through and then through that I found the conferences that I wanted to go through, and then through that I found people who offered me jobs, offered me equity, you know, or who I ended up leading on advice when I ran into a problem that they had previously solved before. So I think that's like the easiest way to scale up into a higher level network where that freedom is research, online free communities, and then from there you find the events, and then from there replace your income or take a vacation, or instead of taking your next vacation just to go and lay on the beach somewhere, why not take a vacation at a conference that's near the beach and then make it about the conference and the beach, right? And the networking. So I think for people who may not already be there, this is a great way to go about doing that. So JV, if you could you maybe explain a little bit about what you're working on now, and since you sold your blog, like what things are you thinking about now, and what direction are you trying to move in life?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about like starting from scratch again, because I'm essentially starting from scratch. Yeah, I got like a bit of a windfall from the blog, but like that was another I really messed up the partnership and the exit of that, which, um, yeah, it's just all part of the journey. So, things don't always go to plan. That's one thing I wanted to kind of touch on. Like, even if I built this incredible thing, it was worth a lot of money at a certain point, but you can make some poor decisions or kind of take your eye off the ball, which can happen when you're doing the 4-hour work week thing. And whenever I was like surfing too much, so that kind of happens. So like, don't get too lost into freedom or too lost into lifestyle. That's one word of warning I would mm, tell people. You can get high on your success. And for me, it was like, the blog was making money. I was surfing a ton. Crypto was going crazy, like in a good way before. And, a lot of that kind of crumbled this year. So, I'm actually kind of dealing with some losses from that. And that's just all part of the journey, all part of the entrepreneurship. If anyone hits a rut, whether it's in the beginning or in the middle, just continue to persist. And that's really what I want to tell people because, yeah, I feel like I'm very much building something from the ground up right now. So, um, I am right now, I'm starting a new niche website. And it took me a few months to identify the niche and I'm growing it and yeah, focusing on that while I'm sort of documenting my journey as well on social media to, um, yeah, really see if I can repeat the same process again and, you know, jet off to Bali or wherever and, yeah, just
Moving.
start a new thing up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Um, I love the transparency, right? You exit your business, you realize you could have maybe exited in a more valuable way to you, and then we have to start over, right? I myself have since I sold my business, I've made some investments that have not been the best financial investments I've ever made, and they've actually lost me a good amount of money. And I have to, in that aspect, I've had to recover from that. So even when you sell your business for a large amount of money, it's the game's not over, right? And even I know people who have sold their business for millions, like for millions and millions of dollars, and it's not like life doesn't end. It's not all like good to go after that, right? Like life will find some kind of way to, in my opinion, force you to grow or just push
Mhm.
you back. And that's just my opinion, whether it's financially, spiritually, emotionally, whatever your mindset. And you may think like, oh, things are good. Well, we may get stuck. We may get high in our success. We may get drunk off our comfort, right? And it isn't, sometimes it's through the inspiration, I think, or through pain that allows us to kind of push through. We have to be honest with ourselves as people who are trying to be the best versions of ourselves of like, hey, like what's working, what's not, and how can I do better? Right. One of the things that I do, and I mentioned on this podcast is since selling my business, one of the things I've done is I realized having gone through that process and helped a lot of other people through that process as well, whether it's just through questions or things like that, is I've gotten my certification as an exit advisor. Um, and since most businesses right now that are selling are Amazon e-commerce businesses, I feel like I can actually help a lot of other people in that space. And like the network that's come just from positioning myself that way has opened a whole nother trajectory, right? So we can leverage our past success. We can leverage our current skill set, whether you've made an online income or not. Think about like your strengths that you currently have, and then try and like find different touch points because there will be other opportunities in that as well. Another thing I wanted to quickly talk about, I took notes over here, um, was your exit. So if you could you explain maybe some things you wish you had done better from the way you exited versus like in hindsight, right? Everything is to hindsight 2020, but what would you maybe have done differently uh, having exited your website?
Sure. So there was a moment where it's funny because I look at if you ever see like the psychology of Wall Street chart where it says like the top is euphoria and then there's like denial, fear, whatever. I forget how it goes. But I had the same experience when I was running my website and it was high and I was euphoric and I was getting some crazy offers, which, whenever you're euphoric, it's time to sell, you know?
Right.
And that was the moment to sell. Like back in COVID, my website was going nuts.
Mm.
Like, it was doing crazy numbers. I was getting good valuations, and I was like, "No, I think it's gonna keep going." And it wasn't until like I said, I took my eye off the ball, and I took on a business partner from a position more of desperation rather than a position of, like, empowerment, so I wasn't really picky with who I partnered with, and also I did a weird kind of equity deal one. In reality, it would have better if I just sold out outright because I essentially did an equity sale and basically lost the remaining half of the business to the guy just because of, like, the sort of deal I had signed and the kind of stress I was under and the position of, like, desperation, like I said, and like a kind of like a fear-based mindset. So like I said about the investing, like whenever you're fearful, like, this guy smelled the fear and he like jumped on, and that's when like I should have really pushed and maybe not sold or sold in to a better way.
Yeah, yeah, definitely hear what you're saying. Somewhat of a similar story for me is like I decided to sell my business during COVID as well. Or I considered selling it when COVID popped off was like 2020, May 2020. My Amazon brand, one of the stores was averaging like $15,000 a month in profit. So I was like, oh, and I kind of looked around my opportunity and I thought, man, like, okay, COVID's still on the uprise. Like my search volume has jumped like through the roof. So like things are going up. Like I see some other opportunity here, here, and here, but I'm kind of capped out here. But I thought to myself, the best time to sell a business is the reality is, in my opinion, the best time to sell your business is when times are good. It's really hard to sell a business when times are bad. As we think about the macro environment, there are so many different things to consider. The macro environment, like the global economy as a whole, the buyer environment, you have people who normally buy from private equity side, aggregators, people with a large VC funding, and then you also have other successful entrepreneurs that may be trying to roll up another business or brand new entrepreneurs who want to start a business by taking a loan out and purchasing a business that way. So, and then on top of that, you also have your niche. So, what's the trend in your niche, right? So, you want to try and balance all of those things and find what's the most like biggest priority for you, right? So, whether it's exiting, for me at that point, I was like, okay, I can exit now and then take that money and scale faster. So that's what I've tried to do since then. And for me, I put things in different investments, some that haven't worked out that well, some that are doing pretty well right now, and then also leveraging my experience and my story to again create other opportunities and diversify what I'm currently doing. But then what I really love for you is like, okay, you went through that. One, I love how transparent you are about your story. So I really appreciate that. I think it's going to hopefully resonate with a lot of other people. But then two, like doubling down on what worked before. So like getting back into the game, you know how to build blogs, you know niche websites. So you identified another one and now you're going after that success. And it's like the way I see it is hits a whole first step back, whether that's like um either selling a business, okay, that you could see that as a swing, but let's talk about like getting profitable online, right? Like very few people will their first website will make them enough money for them to quit their job and get profitable in 6 months, right? So the same thing with private labeling, same thing with a lot of other things out there. So definitely, obviously, starting is the most important thing, but like you said, not giving up, but then doubling back down on what works, I think is absolutely critical because you've already done a lot of that hard work. If you have all that experience, and you might as well leverage what you already know.
Yeah, definitely. I think even for those of you who are just starting out, you can use the same. Like there's something I just have a belief that there's like some skill or something in anyone. If you're drawn towards entrepreneurship, there's something in you that like I'm realizing now, like I'm the same person I was like before I started this thing. It didn't really change me a ton. Yes, I gained all this experience, but like I said, the curiosity and self awareness and like just knowledge of the world. If you haven't started at all, you have that kind of inclinations that are going to allow you to succeed if you believe and just persist, whether, like I said, you're starting from scratch or if you're going round two. There's something in you that can really help.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And I got me thinking, right? So I just got done I've been working on a journaling since when I started my online business in 2015. Right around, it took me a year, probably a solid year from the time I realized, like, hey, it's not so much the business model I'm choosing, it's me it's my mindset, my level of awareness, whether it comes to my awareness and how I structure my day, or how I think about business, or how I think about making decisions, or like being balanced and centered. So what I've done is, over the last like close to 7 years, I've tried to find a journaling system that works best for me, but also touches all different aspects of like, time boxing, top 80/20 rule, Pareto's law, the one thing, self-reflection, all these different things. And I've been building this planner, and it's in my bag over there. I want to go reach and grab it. But if everyone wants to check that
Nice.
out at reggieyoung.com/planner, um, I recommend anyone, if you haven't reached the level of success that you want, is to start writing things down, right? Because when you write things down, one, you can see what you have to do for the day. That's very, very basic. But over time, you're going to start to realize the more you write down, the more you're going to start to manifest things. And you're going to have a better picture on how you need to adjust. And it's going to help you stay consistent, right? So I missed yesterday's, planner or journal activity, right? And it kind of helps build that habit and that momentum to keep you moving forward. And I think, like what you said, is like, having that self awareness and not quitting is just so critically important.
Yeah, and I will say that one thing I did forget is I journaled and I continue to journal daily, and that yeah, it's a really actionable way to develop self-awareness and to like looking back. Because one thing I do in my practice of journaling, I look back to in the past month and I'm like, okay, it's kind of like you're climbing up a mountain, everything's very foggy or whatever. And then you reach a certain point, there's no fog, you turn around and you look at like what path have I taken? Am I doing the right thing? And I feel like that's exactly kind of what happens in the mind when you're journaling, because whenever you're doing it like forward, it's very hard to see where you're going. When you look back, you're like, oh, this is kind of how my mindset has meandered and like how I've progressed or how I've maybe fallen backwards. And yeah, journaling is super, super important. I really recommend it.
Right. I love that. And I love that you also journal. I feel like some of the most successful people I've met, not just like financially, but the most like centered and balanced people who have also achieved financial success, I end up finding that they journal too. They have some kind of physical book that they write stuff down in, and that includes things that they need to be doing, things they want to be doing better, and some kind of self reflection, some kind of like, like slow down and let's just like write some things out and look back on how we can do better. And also look forward to make sure we know where we're going. So, absolutely love that. So, make sure you start journaling. My process when I started journaling, I didn't even want to journal. Like, I hate writing stuff down. I've always hated it. So for me, the way I started with it was just like a small notepad. I'd write down like 10 things I have to do today. And then I was so busy that notepad turned into a notebook. And then I literally had like 20 tasks that I had to do, like random things. And then I realized like, oh crap, like I'm all over the place. So then I started like, okay, priority boards, and then like Eisenhower matrix, or like all these different models to come up with something. And I recommend, if you haven't done anything like that, at least start. Again, I have my planner, reggieyoung.com/planner. If everyone is a Vault member, I give Vault members a free copy. I also don't make any money on the planner. I think I make like 20 cents, because I really want people to get into the habit of journaling and doing some kind of productivity system, because I think it's absolutely life changing. And it looks like it was also life changing for you as well. And it looks like it was one of the pillars that led to your success and your continued ability to kind of stay grounded and stay on purpose and know where you want to move.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Cool, sweet. Well, JV, do you have any like last minute parting advice for anyone else who is looking to get started, maybe do what you're doing, or kind of push through, initial blockages in their entrepreneurship journey?
Yeah, I think, like I said, having the biggest tips of advice I have is be aware of yourself and develop some true confidence. Like whenever you're really aware and you realize what you're actually good at, that'll give you the confidence to go forward and figure out what the world wants. Like you have to have a self awareness and a world awareness. And whenever you connect your skills and your confidence with what the world needs, and you just persist, like that's going to drive you through all the ups and downs. And so, yeah, I would say that making decisions are way more important than labor. And that's actually the basis of like the 4 hour work week. And it's what I do in my daily life and what I did when I was only working literally 4 hours a week or even 1 hour a week. I would just make sure I made good decisions. So even if I was out there surfing or whatever, I would wait until like, okay, what's the right move to make? Like, should I hire this person? Should I tell this person to do that? Whatever. You have to be a very good decision maker when it comes to starting and running a business. Um, that's yeah, that's pretty much
Excellent. Yeah, I love
the
that.
gist of it. Yeah.
Getting confidence. Well, the first thing you said talked about was getting confidence. I remember when I heard something, somewhat similar advice of like, believe in yourself, or like we all have skills and talents. And I remember thinking to myself at the time, this was probably like literally like 20. I've I've heard about it a lot. Actually, the first time I thought about this, I was in university at the Air Force Academy, and I was just like super stressed out. It was way too high level of an academic, challenging environment than I was definitely used to. And I kept hearing like, yeah, you guys are like you're the best in the nation, or you guys have been, they're really trying to build this up. And I thought to myself, like, man, I really like, I'm not the most athletic person by far, especially compared to these D1 athletes coming in. I'm not the smartest compared to these people who have taken Calc 1 and 2 already. I barely passed algebra when I was younger. And I thought to myself, man, well, what am I good at? And I thought, you know what I'm really good at is Super Smash Brothers Melee on the GameCube. Like I almost failed 7th and 8th grade because of that game. And I thought back like, well, what did I do? Well, I played that game all day, every day. All my friends like knew that I was about that game. I even like to the point where I would take notes on like how many steps and spaces and seconds I would take to move the joystick and do all. I would master every single character. And it was crazy because I ended up trying to lean on that in university. But I remember when I was trying to do my online business and get started, I I let kind of that be, and it sounds pretty lame, but I let that be the confidence that led to the next level of confidence, right? So whatever that is, if you have any kind of momentum, look back, celebrate that win, and let that build your confidence up, right? Inherently, like we're human beings, we have the full power to manifest other human beings, children, change the world, right? Like so that power is already in us, and sometimes it just takes a little bit more belief. And if you don't readily believe that within yourself, that's okay. Like just start celebrating the small wins and go for there. Go from there. So JV, I want to really thank you for coming on the podcast. Really enjoyed this interview. If anyone's interested in following your story, learning from you, or seeing what you're up to, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I would say you could follow my Instagram. It's the surferpreneur. So like, the surfer and that preneur. And I have a TikTok as well, and I'm documenting my journeys. And yeah, shoot me a
Excellent.
message there if you want to connect.
Oh, definitely. So I'll link your Instagram down below in the description for anyone who's interested. Again, JV, thank you, and we'll hopefully have you back on um, maybe a few months from now when you got your blog up and running, or you're on to your next thing. So again, thank you for being on the show, and we'll be in touch. Take care.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Reddy.
Bye.
All right.